It's that time of year again. Yes, December and the holidays, but it's also that time of year to take a look at the last round of found media for 2023 and talk about all the new discoveries from September onward. I gotta say, this year has had a lot of really unexpected finds and turned out to be a pretty important year for the community, which is saying a lot considering last year we had stuff like Quantum Quest, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and of course Wicked Witch Sesame Street. It's been debated about whether 2022 or 2023 has been the biggest year for found media, but maybe you can decide after you hear about all these incredible topics. So far, we've had big wants unearthed like JBVO Dragon Ball Z, the Super Y pilot, and the Humpback Hop. Let's take a look at what else we're adding to the list. Let's begin the video by discussing a piece of lost media that was found pretty recently, and one that I had covered in a video not too long ago. The hope in covering it was that someone would come forward with a copy, and that kinda did happen. This is the second pilot to the Nick Jr. show Yo Gabba Gabba, which has had a really interesting backstory surrounding its pilots. The first of which was more of a test video made sometime in the early 2000s, by far the strangest of the three, but was not lost media. The second one, titled Show Number 1, looks way closer to what the final show ended up becoming, but with a couple minor differences to the costumes, as it was handled independently from Nickelodeon. This one too, however, was not lost media, as it's been on Vimeo since December 2020. This one originated from a DVD that was passed around promoting the series before it was aired on TV. But finally, the third and final pilot we had our eyes on was titled Play, and this one was indeed lost media. However, it wasn't always lost, because in February 2021, reports stated that the full pilot had been uploaded online and could be viewed. But unfortunately, the pilot was taken down shortly after it was up, so it went from being available to becoming lost. What's even more unfortunate is that there was very little information about it online, so even getting details that could help us find a copy were difficult. The only real evidence we had to prove it existed, outside of the claims that it did, were two individual shorts that were in it, titled Bubblebeard and Lala Doodles, that were both uploaded in the mid-2000s and somehow are still up after all these years. Additionally, there was a demo song that claimed to be from the Play pilot that was uploaded to Vimeo later on in 2021, but no matter where else you looked, there was no trace of the whole piece. This was until October 2023, shortly after my video discussing the topic was uploaded, when more people started looking for a copy. It was user YoGabbaGuru who contacted a crew member that worked on the pilot and had a DVD copy of it that they shared online. It was pretty unbelievable to get a new copy just like that, and now the pilot can be viewed once again. It's also very interesting to know that this copy came from a DVD. It was never even mentioned that the Play pilot was put onto a DVD, unlike Show Number 1, which we know had physical copies. When I tried looking for any stray or forgotten uploads of it, I was looking for a digital version, never even thinking I could have come across a DVD. This one must have been released as a promotional item in a similar way to Show Number 1, and is probably equally as rare. Personally, I'd still like to know where the original 2021 upload of it came from, whether that was from a DVD too, another crew member, or a completely unrelated source, but no matter how you look at it, we ended up getting a new copy, and now, all three Yo Gabba Gabba pilots have been found. Next, it's time to talk about some found media from a series that people either love or hate, as it comes from arguably one of the worst eras of Cartoon Network. It's weird how we've gotten to that point where late 2000s content like CN Real is becoming nostalgic, and coincidentally, has a lot of lost media too. So maybe it's for that reason fans really wanted to find the lost episodes from out of Jimmy's head. Even if you didn't follow this era of Cartoon Network back then, you've probably seen this show somewhere before. It was one of the first live-action programs that the channel attempted, beginning with the movie Reanimated, and then followed by the series Out of Jimmy's Head. It was about a kid who had a brain transplant with an animator, and now he could see the creations. But both the movie and the series were largely disliked by viewers. It goes back to that live-action integration in the channel that everyone hated back then. Not to mention, the 2007 writer's strike affected some of the editing and post-production work, which overall decreased the quality of the show. Essentially, it was a short-lived experiment that nobody really liked, and was never fully released onto home media as a result. One DVD was apparently released in the UK, but it only contained 3 episodes, and with Cartoon Network having no interest in re-releasing the series, that meant fans were going to have to collect the episodes themselves. For a really long time, the first 10 episodes of the series were put online and could be downloaded from user timeline, but other than that, the remaining 10 were very rare. Only a handful of these episodes had resurfaced at all and were in Romanian, with a couple being in Italian, but nothing in English, which is kind of interesting in itself. For how poorly the show performed in the US, it's a wonder they even bothered dubbing it in different languages, or that any of those harder to find dubs were available online at all. While I'm not aware of any specific searches that were conducted to find the episodes, there is some brief discussion of them within the lost media community, and I'm pretty sure most people were aware they were missing, but the interest wasn't really there to go and find them. It would ultimately come down to getting a hold of home recordings anyway, so the search is mostly limited to that. But home recordings were indeed the reason why the series was found, as in October 2023, user CRB shared the remaining 10 episodes that had been missing with the community, making the entire series found. The most surprising part about this find, however, is that they weren't recordings from Cartoon Network US, but rather Germany. CRB stated they had recorded the series when it was airing on Cartoon Network Germany, but had saved the episodes with their English audio tracks. So not only is it pretty wild to consider these episodes were aired and recorded overseas at all, but secondly is that they were chosen to be saved in English. We could have been looking at a German dub here, and that would mean they'd still be missing. But now, because of this one set of recordings, all 20 episodes can be viewed. Even though no one was really searching for these episodes, the tweet I made alerting everyone to the find actually got a lot of attention, so either there are more fans of this show out there than we thought, or it's people wanting to relive that weird part of their television childhood they're rediscovering through this found media. One of the biggest finds for the community this year is also one that happened very recently, and is a topic that people have been wanting to find for a very long time. It's a classic piece of lost media that I'm sure you've come across before, even if you're not too familiar with it, and that's the Shrek I Feel Good test animation. Shrek in itself has had quite a long history with lost media, for how much of the movie's early content is missing and still mysterious. Among these is the original audio for the character that Chris Farley recorded, and then second to that is the early animation test. Back in the day, when Chris Farley was still planning to voice the character, there was a test animation made before the design and style of the movie was finalized. Going as far back as 2017 is when the first pieces of content from this animation made their way onto YouTube, containing storyboards in September of that year, and set things off with the initial interest in this animation. However, it's the DreamWorks animators themselves that have been the source for most of the content from it. Two of the most famous finds were in July and August 2022, when demo reels from 2 different DreamWorks animators were found, and in them contained new content from I Feel Good that nobody had come across before. The first one was a sped up clip that was eventually slowed down and re-uploaded, while the second was a couple of individual clips taken from different points of the test, but both were without audio. But it was in November 2023 that the jackpot would be found, once again from one of the original production designers that made the test in the first place. Uploaded to YouTube was the full original I Feel Good test animation from 1995 that had remained elusive for so long. It's 38 seconds in length and matched up with the clips we had seen over the many years of searching for it. But after news of it being found spread, I saw a few people mention that a second animator claimed this was not the whole piece, and rather, there was more that was missing from the upload. I was confused about this at first, considering the upload itself was from someone who worked on it. That would have been strange if they purposely omitted content from their own work. But going back to the original storyboards from 2017, they total about 2.5 minutes in length, and contain content not seen in the test animation we got. This has led to a new theory, with the current speculation about the difference in content being the test that was found was made at an even earlier point in production than we thought, possibly before Chris Farley was even cast, and that there exists a second, longer version from after he was cast. Basically, there could be two different versions that exist, and we got the shorter one that everyone was looking for, without even knowing a longer one existed. Though that one remains to be uncovered, with no leads or discussion on where a copy could be. But getting to see even this much is huge for the community, and something nobody expected to find, especially in this way. I think if you had to make a list of the top 5 pieces of found media that have been obtained this year, this next topic would probably be somewhere on that list. It's been desired for years, its cancellation got everyone intrigued about it, and its connection to iCarly immediately made people want to have it, especially more than a lot of other Nickelodeon topics out there. I am talking about none other than the Gibby pilot. For those who aren't familiar with this old school piece of lost media, back in 2012 when iCarly ended, it was decided that there would be a spin-off made featuring a character from the popular show. 2 pitches were made to Nickelodeon, one being the Gibby pilot and the other being Sam and Cat, which pulled another character from Victorious, which also aired on Nickelodeon. After both pilots were made, Nick ended up rejecting Gibby in favor of Sam and Cat, so Gibby was never made into a full series or anything beyond a pilot, which was never released and had been missing ever since its creation. But even for how elusive content from the pilot was, a small amount of content from it had still resurfaced over the years. This includes media like logos, set photos, and even bits about its production, like how it was edited in August 2012. For how rare any content about the pilot seemed, people were definitely aware it existed, and kept an eye out for anything else that could show up. In 2019, for example, a description of the script and 3 pages from it were posted online, so it only seemed like a matter of time before bigger pieces of content would resurface. Eventually, this led to even more news about the script, with a user named Larry PhD claiming to have a copy of it, which was apparently won in a Nickelodeon trivia contest. While the full contents weren't shared at the time because of copyright fears, it was eventually sold to another user who confirmed it matched with the 3 pages from 2019, though eventually the whole script was posted online anyway. More screenshots were revealed in 2022 by Quentin Reviews after claims that the mom of one of his subscribers worked on the pilot, but it still left us without any clips or leads to getting the entire thing unearthed, which is what everyone wanted at this point, but eventually it would come out of nowhere. In October 2023, the big finale to this topic was getting the whole pilot uploaded by a user who apparently had it in a collection of other media. It's been stated that this user has connections to the industry and had been sharing some content via requests, so that's likely part of the reason why it resurfaced like it did. However, the original YouTube upload would quickly be removed due to copyright fears, but people made sure to save it right away, and re-uploads are available online. The plot itself is pretty entertaining. I thought it was decent for iCarly standards. It follows Gibby, who is the main character of the series, as he unintentionally befriends some younger kids who are being picked on at school. Then they eventually help him out later in the episode. A lot of people were pretty angry after watching the pilot that this show was rejected in favor of Sam and Cat, but it's hard to say if Gibby would have been successful at all without knowing what more of its episodes would have been like, though it's unlikely this will ever become lost again, and it ends a search over a decade in the making. This next topic is one that didn't get too much attention within the lost media community, for the fact that it was largely found outside of it, and also there isn't really a dedicated search or article for the topic, that being Tickle U. Now, within the area of lost media from kids shows, Tickle U is one of the less desired or searched for areas of content, probably because there's not as much nostalgic attachment to it. This was a very short-lived block of preschool shows that aired on Cartoon Network from 2005 to 2006 before being cancelled, and is not remembered well at all. The block had a variety of relatively unpopular shows, with hosts that many fans to this day still say are unsettling and creepy. In fact, the general branding of the block is kind of all over the place, and I'm not sure if it was ever even clear to kids what any of this was supposed to be. So because of how obscure it is, a lot of its content became lost, including the most famous production to come out of Tickle U, a new US dub of Peppa Pig that replaced the original UK voice actors. This dub only aired on the block, which made finding the episodes very hard, in addition to most Tickle U content in general. However, this topic is one of those continuous search efforts that slowly unearths new content, and one of the biggest finds from it happened this year. In September 2023, Evan's Nickelodeon Archive dropped a huge surprise in the Nick Story Discord server, and revealed that they had purchased a tape lot from eBay which included 3 tapes and contained hours of previously lost Tickle U content. Up until this point, there were only a handful of promos and commercials online, mostly in poor quality, and very little from the shows themselves, most notably that Peppa Pig dub I mentioned before. But now we have more content from the block than anyone ever found before, and in really good quality. It's kind of amazing that anyone even taped this much of the block to begin with, considering it wasn't popular and very short-lived. As for the Peppa Pig dub itself, a total of 8 new episodes were found on the tapes, in addition to a single episode that was found previously, to bring the total amount of content found up to 9 out of 52 episodes. The server actually had a watch party when this stuff was being archived, and I was there for a little bit too. It was so cool getting to witness lost media become found in real time, and everyone had a great time checking out the content. With more of this material being watchable, it's not as bad as the few promos suggest, if you were to watch them in passing. Yeah, the mascots aren't great, and some of the dialogue can get a little confusing, but overall, it's a cool artifact from a short-lived block that's worth saving when it can be. Like for the first time ever, a CN City era Tickle U bumper showed up that nobody even knew existed. It's little obscurities like this that make it fun to keep searching for, and there's still a lot more to find. So if you have some Tickle U recordings, we could see another collection of content resurface. Now, if you were looking for something really unexpected to be found in this video, something that nobody ever thought would resurface because nobody believed any copy still existed, I think this topic is the perfect one. It dates all the way back to some of the first lost media videos I ever made, and one that a lot of people have told me got them into lost media. That's the Kelly Toy, Chowder, and Flapjack plushes. These were a collectible anomaly for the fact that nobody even knew they existed in the first place. How the story goes is that they appeared in Kelly Toy's upcoming products catalog in 2010, with prototypes having been seen in their showroom in 2011, but both sets of characters were quietly cancelled and never released. Nobody had any of these or could prove claims that they had been seen in the wild somewhere back in the day. And for the years that followed, I was convinced that all these plushes had either been destroyed or quite simply lost somewhere in an abandoned plush warehouse for no one to ever find. But for the first time, that story changed when earlier this year, the first ever prototype from these series resurfaced, a Flapjack that was purchased on eBay after having been found at an estate sale. While this did give me hope that more of the set could be out there, it did seem like one of those mythical sales that only comes up once or twice ever, having been bought and sold at the right time. But there was another huge find with these plushes that changes the story quite a bit, and adds to the likelihood that there are more out there. In November 2023, I got a message from a viewer of mine who stated they own the Kelly Toy Mung Doll plush. I was so surprised I almost didn't know what to say. It just appeared out of nowhere and was completely legit. It looked exactly like the photo from the catalog and had the Kelly Toy sample tag on it. They explained the backstory behind this plush, having said they actually obtained it 3 to 4 years ago, but didn't know it was lost or desired until having come across my video talking about them. They also explained that it wasn't an eBay purchase like the Flapjack, which is what I had originally thought, but rather it was one in a claw machine. Apparently this machine was located at a Walmart in Georgia, along with a Truffles plush from the same set, though she wasn't one and there's no photo of her in the machine either. While the mystery remains about how exactly these prototype plushes ended up in a claw machine, the only conclusion to reach is that they must have been put there by accident. Claw machine companies source their stock from all over the place, so it's possible the plush had been discarded or traded hands a few times until it was eventually sold as bulk. But even for as interesting as that story is, what's even more unbelievable is that it adds legitimacy to previously debunked claims about these plushes. For years on my original video, I had people claiming they saw Chowders and Flapjacks at local carnivals, more specifically at Carowinds in North Carolina. I always believed these people must have been misremembering. There's no way a prototype could have been found in the wild like that. But now it seems very possible the same situation could have ended up with more of these plushes. And if we push this theory even further, I wonder if any of this has something to do with the fact that Cartoon Network is headquartered in Georgia. We know several of each character were made, so we could definitely end up seeing more of these eventually. But by far, it's the strangest example of prototypes making their way out to the public that I've ever seen. Here's another long search that got a huge update recently, and one that I've covered in an older video before. Originally, I was going to save this for another Lost Media Kids Show video, but since it's been so long since I've talked about it, I think discussing it here with Found Media is more fitting. Besides the Little Einsteins pilot, this topic is definitely one of the bigger Playhouse Disney searches that people have taken an interest in, which is great, considering I don't cover Disney Channel Lost Media on the channel often. This is mostly because I didn't really grow up watching it and have less of an attachment to the content that aired on it, but there are still a few nostalgic topics that come to mind. One of them was the short little bumpers and promos from Playhouse Disney that featured the colorful monkeys named Ooh and Ah. They hosted the block from 2007 to 2011, before being replaced by the Disney Junior revamp. But during their 4-year run on TV, they had a lot of memorable content, so it makes sense why people would want to find it. Specifically, I remember the Monkey Mail bumpers being particularly catchy, and there was actually a separate search that attempted to locate these alone. But you might be asking yourself, where do you start searching for this, with 4 years of content that aired daily, and with a variety of each kind of bumper? Let me direct you to the massive Google Doc that archives every found bumper for Ooh and Ah, which includes sections for date it aired, date it was found, and how complete it is. RetroVault, who is one of the leads on this project, reported that a total of 60 new bumpers were found this year, which is great progress, and there's a total of 265 on the list right now. There are even separate sections for international versions, which kinda crosses over into lost dub territory. The content from these other countries seems to be very rare, which makes it even more fun to try and find. But just like the Boomerang bumper search, which so far has several hundred entries in it, there's no master list for every Ooh and Ah bumper that was made, so it's not clear what would define a complete search. But I think that comes with the territory of lost bumpers and promos anyway. You never really expect to find all of them, and only find as many as you can. In that sense, searches like this can be very successful, and just looking at the spreadsheet is proof of that. This will be another fun topic to follow, and see how many more the team can find, or if some really rare ones are discovered. We have to get a little SpongeBob Lost Media in this video, especially since it's the last found media one of the year. There were quite a lot of popular SpongeBob topics discussed throughout 2023, and this one is no exception, becoming very popular only a couple months ago. But to those of you who were following this search, you'll be happy to hear it's been concluded, and very quickly, compared to the other topics in the same category. For this one, I'm talking about a commercial, the SpongeBob PSP commercial, that gained a lot of attention for the fact that nobody really knew what it was even supposed to be. On YouTube, there exists a commercial advertising a block of episodes called Captain Secrets for the 10th anniversary of the series. After that commercial ends, there's a 1-second clip that can be seen of SpongeBob holding a PSP while playing Little Big Planet on it and swinging side to side. This is all we had, and if it hadn't been for this upload, we wouldn't have known it even existed in the first place. In fact, I speculated that it was probably a mistake by the original uploader to have even left it in there at all, given how abruptly it cuts. But thanks to that, a search formed around it. And thankfully, since it was a direct recording from TV and came right after the Captain Secrets commercial, we knew so many details about it, making it easier to source. The commercial was from November 18th, 2009 and aired in Germany, so we'd just need to find a new recording of the block from that day to get it unearthed. In between the time I covered it in a video and when it got found, there was some looking around on YouTube and in commercial compilations, but no one came across anything. It was even claimed by a user who said they saw it that the commercial was only 5 seconds long, and simply stated, the promotion was brought to you by Little Big Planet. I questioned this for the fact that it seemed to come out of nowhere, but no sooner did I have my doubts, a full copy of the commercial showed up a few days later, and only a couple weeks after my video. The user who claimed to remember it wasn't wrong either. It literally was a 5-second clip of SpongeBob basically doing the same motions as he did in the 1-second clip, and we don't even get to see his face. I was hoping this would have been some crossover heavy ad where SpongeBob meets Sackboy or something, but it wasn't anything like that. The Lost Media Wiki article says the commercial was found within an MTV archive, but doesn't specifically say where or how it was found. Some people were disappointed with it, and even I was to some extent, but I was happy the mystery was over and got this smaller topic on the found media list. Finally, we've made it to the last piece of found media in the video, and if there was ever one to finish off this year for the Lost Media community, I think this one would be it. While the Shrek I Feel Good test animation is definitely high up there and could be argued for the biggest find of 2023, I think I'd personally have to give it to this topic for how memorable the find was. If you've been following Lost Media for the past several years, chances are you've come across the pilot for the Nick Jr. show Blue's Clues at one point or another. This early version of the show was titled Blueprints, and was made before the series even got picked up by Nickelodeon in the summer of 1995. For nearly a decade following its creation, the pilot in its entirety had remained a mystery, with no content from it having been made available or released to the public at all. It wouldn't be until 2006 when we'd get our first glimpse of it on TV, in a 10th anniversary special commemorating the Blue's Clues series. We got to see our first look at Blueprints and how it differed from the final show. Despite this first look at the pilot, it was only shown in very short clips, and that's all we'd get for the next decade. Throughout this time, the topic found new popularity in the earlier days of the Lost Media community, and it was also in one of the first batches of Lost Media topics I decided to cover on my channel as well. Word about this topic spread, and over the years, fans had been trying to get more from it, most notably from series creator Angela Santamero and from Nickelodeon themselves. We know that the pilot was put onto VHS and screened at preschools before the series was picked up, but finding one of those tapes could be impossible. Not to mention, Angela herself has stated she has a copy, along with several other mementos from the set, but cannot release them due to copyright reasons. Nick has teased us too over the years, constantly referencing the pilot by name, and most recently, posting new clips from it for the series' 25th anniversary. Fans believed that this was the precursor to a full release, as it proves Nick has their own copy, but no release ever happened. But now, that's something the internet doesn't have to wait for anymore, as 2 years following the new clips posted by Nick, the unexpected happened.
What? Koopa Dub said Blueprints got found 2 minutes ago? No way. Live on stream? Are we gonna go find look at Blueprints? No way. Where do I go to find it? YouTube? No, there it is! I'm gonna have to save it too after the stream. Oh my god, there it is. There it is. That's insane! I didn't think we were actually gonna get this. Oh my god!
Yes, out of nowhere, a copy of Blueprints resurfaced online, and nobody could believe it for how unexpectedly it arrived. News of it appearing spread all over the community and beyond. If there was anything limiting Shrek from becoming the biggest find of the year, it would probably be this initial reaction. With Blueprints, people were making re-uploads, backed it up dozens of times on the Wayback Machine, and discussed it so heavily it's unlikely to ever be lost again. The pilot itself is actually the precursor to the first episode of the series, Snack Time, and reuses the same plot. Though, unfortunately, this version seems to be missing some of its audio, including character voices and background tracks. While that doesn't hinder the overall watching experience, it would still be nice to get that version with all the final edits. Though despite this, the community has considered it found. We know that Nickelodeon has their own copy of it and could release it anytime they wanted, so that would be a bonus on top of what we already have. We went from short clips that were passed around for years to the entire filmed episode that nobody was expecting. Perhaps that's one of the mysteries with Lost Media. You never know when or how something is going to show up until it just does. 2023 was really packed with all the found media we got, and it'll be very interesting going into 2024 thinking about what can be found to top that. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other Lost Media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.